Hello everyone and welcome to Staying Ahead of the Curve. I'm Jeff Snyder, Vice President and Senior Consultant with CAMAC Retirement Group, and we're here in Washington, D.C. We're back again, and this time at the NAGDCA Industry Roundtable. I'm joined today by the Communications and 457 Plan Manager and past President of the National Association of Government Defined Contribution Administrators, Polly Scott. Polly, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Jeff. It's really great to be here.
And I should have said the driving force behind the National Save for Retirement Week campaign. So again, thanks for joining us. But before we get to National Save for Retirement, the campaign, the week, and even some insights about your plan, we're here at NAGDCA. NAGDCA has been a driving force in itself for government-defined contribution plans. And I wonder if you could just take a moment for the audience as a past president and someone who's been advocating for government DC plans and government retirement. Talk a little bit about the organization.
NAGDCA is an amazing organization and has done so much good for our industry. I think of NAGDCA really as the thought leader, that helps us all move forward with what we can do with our plans. And the great thing about NAGDCA is that it's an association of public plan managers like me, and also our industry partners, and we can all come together and we can collaborate in ways that we don't normally do in our everyday environments and kind of move the envelope forward. And I think the official tagline of NAGDCA is the voice of defined contribution plans, and that's exactly what it is. NAGDCA has had a huge role in accomplishing a lot of important legislative changes for defined contribution plans, such as all the way back to '96 with the trust provision. 457 plans, those assets weren't segregated into a trust where they could be protected from general creditors. Before that, NAGDCA accomplished that, helped to accomplish that, advocated for that, which is hugely important. Then, moving all the way into 2002 with EGTRA, which created so much portability and put all the defined contribution plans in more harmony with each other, sync with each other, so they weren't as problematic for people to move between them. And then the Pension Protection Act, which started bringing in all those auto features, which is now what we're benefiting from. So NAGDCA has been in there from on all levels, helping us move forward.
And I think as a person who is kind of on the outside, in terms of being a service provider to people in the industry or on the government side, the collaboration, you hit on this. I mean, really, unlike other segments of the defined contribution or retirement marketplace, there's a lot of collaboration between executive directors and people who have responsibility about how to communicate, which I know is a passion of yours, but how to communicate and educate.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think let's get into kind of the meat of the conversation around the National Save for Retirement Week. And I know you are extremely passionate. You're a driving force, as I said earlier. Can you kind of provide an overview of National Save for Retirement Week?
NAGDCA started advocating with different congressional sponsors for an event like this in 2006 was the first one. And it was Senators Ben Cardin from Maryland, who I know is your senator, as well as Kent Conrad were the first two original sponsors, and NAGDCA started realizing, and it was well before my time as being involved at the board level of NAGDCA, but they started realizing that we needed a platform to be able to get the attention of our participants as well as the public and be able to focus and bring awareness to retirement planning. And it's been something that I can, in the role that I have, I see how daunting it is for my participants to figure out what to do for their retirement. They're all focused on other things like their families and their jobs and their educations. And this is a whole field unto itself that the average person has not tackled. So I see how daunting that is, and that this is, the what started out as National Save for Retirement Week, and then recently we kind of transitioned to the name of National Retirement Security Week, broaden that out so that it encompasses not only the savers but also the people that are in retirement and who are decumulating or spending down their assets. And so it's very important. And something that's been special for me is that after a few years of Senator Conrad sponsoring the event, he was leaving, and he asked Senator Enzi from Wyoming to take over as the sponsor.
Your home state.
Yes, and it's been really, really meaningful to me to work with Senator Enzi on this issue. He's passionate about it, and I think every year that we do these campaigns, it gets more ingrained into the minds of our participants.
And so just to be clear, this isn't just about government defined contribution plans or government retirement plan. This is a national campaign focused on all participants, all employees, regardless of what sector of the economy they service.
NAGDA has made a long-term commitment to building this event, and I know we've been participating in this event kind of in all doing individual campaigns and having some degree of success with those, but what we've made a long-term commitment to moving this into the national realm and trying to magnify our voice with one message nationwide. And it's because we see that we really need a societal change toward retirement. And let me just give you a parallel, if I could.
Sure.
I grew up in Wyoming, as you know, in the 70s, and hard to believe, but back then, people didn't wear seatbelts. And this was just normal. And I recall a family trip that we took to Yellowstone, which is about an 8-hour drive from my home in Cheyenne to Yellowstone. It was 1974, and we didn't wear seatbelts the whole time we were driving to Yellowstone. And if we'd had an accident, it would have just been terrible, But then, by the time I was going into high school, something had changed, and my family was wearing seatbelts, and everybody was wearing seatbelts. And I can tell you, I wear a seatbelt all the time now, and so do my kids, and I would never go anywhere without a seatbelt. And basically, what happened? What happened to create that societal change in our behavior? There was a national campaign for awareness with seatbelts, and that's kind of what NAGDA has realized we need for National Retirement Security Week. And it's really that campaign that pulls in a lot of different factors. It's at the federal level, the national level, reinforced with public and private institutions, and that's what we're moving toward.
And so I think what's interesting, and we've articulated on the show and with previous guests, is so much of the conversation to date has been, kind of on the periphery or the sidelines, Save for Retirement. And so this is a national campaign, but much of the oxygen has been around healthcare recently, over the last 2 decades, really about healthcare. But healthcare is an important component in retirement. That's one aspect of retirement. And so maybe it's really time for the retirement topic to kind of take the place of healthcare, and we can have that national conversation.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. It's a more holistic way of looking at everything, and by just having that awareness ingrained in people as they enter the workforce. I need to check into my employer's retirement plan because I need to get going with that with my very first job after I finish my education, and to be able to plant that seed in a person's mind that I can't liquidate my retirement savings between every job because that's just devastating to your overall retirement security. To have those thoughts already built into people's minds as they enter the workforce, it would make a tremendous difference.
And I just want to point out that I wear my seatbelt in the back seat as well. So let's change gears. Let's talk about the 2016 Your Whole Story campaign. So can you tell the audience about that if they're not familiar? And they should be familiar. You should be familiar with this.
Yes. Well, first of all, I want to just hold up a few graphics for you. And
Beautiful.
It's pretty cool.
Collateral.
It's pretty cool. And I want to tell you that NAGDA for 2016, we put together a group of industry partners and plan sponsors from government like myself. We all got together and we collaborated about this idea of NAGDA providing the campaign that all of us could use, as well as anyone in the private sector, any nonprofits. It's freely available on NAGDA's website for everyone to use. I think they're going to put the website up on the screen. It's NAGDA/NRSW for National Retirement Security Week.
This is the first time, by the way, that we're actually putting the graphic probably around here.
And so we all came together, And we talked a lot about the principles that we wanted to base the campaign on, what we wanted to accomplish, and we talked a lot about the voice of the campaign. What kind of a voice did we want the campaign to have? We really wanted the campaign to have a voice of a trusted mentor or a champion. And it's the voice of the plan sponsor or even the retirement plan participant themselves as they are sharing the information with their friends, their family, their coworkers, because we can all be our own champion when it comes to retirement savings. And we partnered with the National Association of Retirement Plan Participants, known as NARP. And they're a really thought leadership-oriented organization as well, so it was a good partnership. And they designed the campaign for us, and you can see, you can see that the graphics are very different. They're very engaging, and what we did is we developed a number of different ready-use pieces of information. This is what we call our savings journey map, and this is something that's designed to have a person open it up and look at it, and you can start a conversation with them. Like, where are you at in your financial journey? Your financial life is as important as every other aspect of your life, and this is kind of calling people to think about it and take care of it, just like they take care of everything else. Your education, your travel schedule, you take care of everything else, and so you start a conversation with people and say, have you started an emergency fund? Here's a point in time where it makes sense to do that. So this is a fun piece. We also call it an artifact of the campaign. This is a piece that people get to take home with them. Now, plan sponsors are going to be really different about how they roll out this campaign or did roll out this campaign. Some are going to print the materials like I was able to do in Wyoming, but some can't, and so it's all also online. And so plan sponsors can go to the website. There's a part for the plan sponsor to go to download all these materials. They can customize them or they can use them as is. And then there's another part of the website that's for participants to go to where they can see the materials for them. This is our we call it our field notes. And it's basically a collection of retirement tips that are put together in really easy to understand graphics and short snippets of engaging information that plant those seeds of good retirement behaviors. People can flip through this in 10 minutes.
There's the journey map, I guess, represented.
Yeah. People can flip through this in 10 minutes and have some really good takeaways that will guide them well for retirement security. And here's one of my favorite ones. And this graphic quickly shows you, you spend a small part of your life in growing up into adulthood, then you spend the biggest part of your life in your working years, but look how much you spend in retirement. It's almost as much as you spend working. People often have a misconception about how much of their life is going to be spent in retirement, which creates a barrier to them taking good steps towards retirement savings. They think, oh, it's just going to be a few years at the end of my life, and it's not a significant part of my life. This quickly, in a visual way, tells you that it is, and it's motivating. So you can see I'm pretty psyched about our field notes, and again, I was able to print these in Wyoming because I had a small budget for printing, but they're all available on the website digitally, and so you can use them that way as well.
And I noticed before you move on to some of the other ideas,
yeah,
they're very simple. There's very simple language in here. In our industry,
right,
there is a lot of jargon, and
right.
I think that can be a turnoff for participants and kind of be a barrier for entry. So, I noticed that it's important. I think that's one of the lessons learned, best practices, and you're a communications
right.
expert. Make it simple for people to understand. If not, tune out.
Right, exactly, and it gets back to that trust. We really wanted to have the voice of the campaign to be that trusted mentor. And you're not going to trust someone who talks to you in a way that you don't understand just because it's a barrier. But I want to show you one more thing, and I want to give this to you, Jeff, because you're such a fantastic NAGDA member, such a great part of the NAGDA community. In Wyoming, we printed this up as a giveaway for our members, and we are fortunate that our members are in Social Security. We have a defined benefit pension plan, and then we also have our 457 plan, which represents supplemental savings in our environment. our members are often confused, and they'll be like, what do I have for retirement? They don't know. So this is a quick way to visually show them what they have for retirement, and it's an education moment all on its own, and it's fun to be able to educate in such a simple way, but it's such an important foundation that they know that.
And I love it. And here, well, thank you so much. I didn't mean to take it from you.
No, take it.
I grab it out of your hands. It's appreciative, and it is really nice. And I think one of the things that we've worked on with some of our clients is infographics and things to kind of boil things down and to make it simple and to kind of have this be so in not someone's face, but I mean, create awareness is really nice.
I think of it as an updated image of the three-legged stool.
Yep.
Because it's like, I have this, I have this, I have this. Yep. This is my retirement,
And I think oftentimes, kind of going off on a tangent, but that's typically what we do on the show. The defined contribution and defined benefit are often seen as completely opposite sides of the spectrum, but they're really not in competition with one another. And maybe this kind of leads me to some questions that we'll tackle in a little bit, but they kind of work in complement of one another.
It's the best retirement plan is a defined benefit plan and a defined contribution plan together. They work together very well.
It's great. This is an exciting campaign, and it's had a great impact. What can we look forward to for 2017?
Well, thank you, Jeff. We're really proud of your whole story, and I wanted to mention that we won a P&I Eddie Award for your whole story, and everybody who worked on the campaign. We had a task force of about almost 20 people from NAGDA working on it, as well as NARP as the designer, and everybody's so proud, and it was really encouraging. We brought together the same task force, a few different people changing up, but it's about 8 plan sponsors, about 10 or so people from industry. People think I'm crazy because I have such a big group, but we break into smaller subgroups and we really get in there and we drill down and dialogue about what we want to do. And we held a strategy session for 2017, and everybody agreed our best strategy would be to expand and build upon your whole story for 2017. So plan sponsors can be looking forward to it coming out, and we're going to build additional materials for it, and those will be available on our website probably in early July. I'm not going to tell you a whole lot about what they're going to be, but they're basically going to be a little bit more video material, and we're going to try to do kind of a peer-to-peer format where we have some participants speaking about the barriers that they've faced with retirement awareness and how they've overcome it. We know that's a powerful format. And then also materials that are more geared towards pre-retirees, which I know in Wyoming, it's a bigger piece of our population than the mid-career people. We've got kind of an older population.
This is, a great details about 2017, and we're really looking forward to that. But all this would not be possible if it weren't for the support, the bipartisan support, I should say, one of the few bipartisan issues here in Washington, D.C. right now, of support of Senators Enzi and Senator Cardin. I
cannot thank Senator Cardin and Senator Enzi enough for their ongoing support. They have been doing this for 10 plus years, and they do it because they believe in it and they're passionate about it. And getting the resolution through the process in the Senate is not an easy thing to do. Their staffers work on it for practically a year. It takes practically a year for them to get it done. And they're so gracious and kind and supportive. It really gives us a platform. The congressional endorsement gives us a platform that we can then use to get the attention that we need to build the awareness. And we just want to maximize it more and more and take it all the way into the public sphere. And there's, like I said, the materials are freely available on NAGDA's website, and anyone can use them, and there's no restriction whatsoever. Plan sponsors can customize it in the way that they would like with their logo, adding that on, adding in some of their own information if that would be appropriate, or if they don't have the capability to do that, there's off the shelf that you can use.
And let me just say that Senators Cardin and Enzi, they have an open invitation to appear on the show if they wish.
Wow.
That's big news.
Yeah.
Forget Fox, forget CNBC, MSNBC. Come to Staying Ahead of the Curve and Asset TV. So if we can shift gears a little
Yep.
bit, if we could talk a little bit about your plan, the deferred compensation plan.
Yeah.
And maybe you could tick off, what we try to do is we want to make sure that we interact with plan sponsors and we give people a roadmap. So if you could share, that you're comfortable with, share some of the insights about your plan and things that you're tackling and issues that you're dealing with today.
It's kind of like in my plan, we just climbed a big hill, and we just were able to accomplish some really big things that we'd been wanting to accomplish for many years. And so I'll just talk about those rather than stuff that's coming down the road, because I think they're more important. So in Wyoming, the state of Wyoming is our single biggest employer with my plan. And Wyoming's like not even as big as big cities, altogether. The state of Wyoming's not even as big as big cities. There's 650,000 people in all of Wyoming. And so we have one big employer, the state of Wyoming, with maybe about 9,000 employees. And then we have all of our little cities, towns, counties, school districts, weed and pest districts. All these small employers can also join our 457 plan as well. And it's a very decentralized environment. Hiring can happen in thousands of different locations, as remote as like fish hatcheries and things like that. And so we could see the value of automatic enrollment. And I started talking with my board about automatic enrollment as soon as the Pension Protection Act was passed in 2007. August 17th, 2007, which happens to be my daughter's birthday. So
happy birthday to her.
when it comes.
Happy birthday to the Pension Protection Act.
Yes, exactly. It took us a while to be able to get our state law changed that would allow for automatic enrollment. And what we needed to do was we needed statutory permission to go forward with automatic enrollment. Our board had other challenges that they needed to deal with, and we weren't able to do that right off the bat. But we were building our ideas about it, and finally we were able to get our state law changed, and we just implemented automatic enrollment for the state of Wyoming employees who are newly hired as of July 1, 2015. And so that's been going now for a year and a half or so.
And what's the default percentage?
3%.
Okay.
And I'm proud to say that Wyoming has the highest default percentage of all the 457 plans out there that have auto enrollment. There's about 15 of them. I got to learn from them. So, most of them put it in either at 1% or at their minimum dollar amount, which might have been $20 or $25. And they quickly realized that that was not a meaningful amount. And so because our process took longer, I got to watch and realize if we're going to go in for this, we got to go big, and we've got to create a meaningful amount because it's a supplemental piece of retirement. It's not like the 401k levels where you really need to be 10% and beyond. So we did a whole income objective study on our plan, and I was greatly helped by Stacy Schaus of PIMCO on that, if that's allowed to say.
You're allowed. She was a guest on the show.
Yeah.
So hi, Stacy.
Hi, Stacy. Thank you again. We were greatly helped by Stacy Schaus of PIMCO with our asset or income objective study, which showed us, with all the assumptions we selected and how we decided to structure our study, it's kind of a complex thing to do. People in our environment needed to be saving on average 5.5% from the beginning of their career to their end of their career to fully inflation protect their benefit. And that was a little rich for us, that 5.5%, so we decided to back it down to 3%, and that's where we're at.
And did you consider the auto escalation, or is that something that you're considering on a go-forward basis, possibly? We're
considering it going forward, but we had because we're not the payroll arm of our organization, our payroll office was very concerned about being able to handle that technology-wise, so we put that on the back burner for now. But I can tell you that every person that gets hired into the state of Wyoming now is being automatically enrolled. We've had, last time I looked at the numbers, we'd had like 15 people opt out. We had 2 people take permissible withdrawals. So by and large, everybody who's getting hired with the state of Wyoming is positioned for good retirement outcomes. We've got a 97% stick rate with
Wow.
very few people are opting out of it. We were a little worried about the 3% level because our environment is kind of a lower wage environment. Our people don't earn high dollar in Wyoming usually, but it's working, and we're very proud of that. Then the next thing we moved on to, we had a little bit of a strategic roadmap. The next thing we moved on to was we wanted to streamline our investment menu. Our menu was a really good menu, had good funds. We'd been keeping them up and replacing when we needed to, but it was all based on the Morningstar style box. And we could see, we did a lot of research to see what our participants were doing, how they were allocating. We found out that their relationship of age to equity, there was none. Nobody was really adhering to the invest more in equities when you're younger and less in equities when you're older. They just weren't doing that. Also, there was really not a lot of sense about how people were using growth and value funds, yet we were giving them those choices. There was not a lot of logic about the distinction between small and mid. And so we really could see the benefit of streamlining the menu, reducing the choices, making it easier for people, but behind the scenes, inside of each one of our white label funds would be more diversification, more optimization, and better opportunity for investment growth.
And the target date fund, are you seeing a lot of contributions flow into the target date fund? Because we kind of see that with other types of plans.
New enrollees are, by and large, going target date. Our plan has gotten to the point where we're about a third target date, a third core, and a third, well, less than a third, about 26% stable value. But I'll tell you that we're down from 60% stable value, which is what it was when I came into the plan, which is that was real typical. And so we do, it's a little bit early to go in and do an analysis of how people are allocating now that we have our white label funds in place. But when enough time has passed, we'll do that and we'll look at it, and I hope that we'll see that people are allocating better. And basically we've embedded asset allocation advice or guidance structure into our menu. And people have simpler choices, and there's less opportunity to mistakenly think you're diversified when you're really just in several different equity funds.
And that's the importance of communication. I mean, you've got to remind people that they need to take a look. I mean, you talked earlier, planning for the vacation. They're planning to, their jobs, and they're consumed by today, but they really need to take a look at and refresh and think about things continuously.
Yeah.
So shifting gears real quick, I know you're up on the Hill.
Yes.
And interacting with the senators and the congressmen. And what's top of mind for NAGDCA, the board? I think if you can share.
First of all, I guess I just want to say how important it is for NAGDCA to have an ongoing kind of lobbying presence with all of our elected officials and people in the administration. And Susan White has done that for NAGDCA for over 20 years, and it's been very important. So the board every year goes and visits, in 2 days we'll visit anywhere from like 8 to 12 different people or offices, and we develop our strategies or our priorities, our legislative priorities. This has been the best time ever for the 5 years I've been going on these visits where people were saying, yeah. In the past it was always interesting ideas. There's not going to be any legislation that moves in terms of tax reform, so don't think anything's going to happen. This time when we went, everybody said, this is an amazing time to be bringing these ideas forward because tax reform is center stage, and they're not sure how they're going to work their vehicle, whether they're going to get a bipartisan vehicle or maybe there's something that's going to come, from the House or from a committee. They're not quite sure about that, but they do believe something's going to move. So NAGDCA had developed kind of a package of refinements to our Roth provision. How many years ago did we get the Roth? About 5 to 6 years ago. We got the Roth provision for 457, which is very important to let people diversify, tax diversification, whichever way they want it. That's really important. But there were some glitches that came with that legislation that we now know about, such as, people who Well, first of all, most importantly, 457 assets can roll to Roth IRAs, but Roth IRAs can't roll to 457s. And so we see no reason for that to not be changed, so that could be adjusted. That gives people, just the portability that they want, as well as the assets in the 457 Roth are subject to required minimum distributions, and whereas assets in the Roth IRA are not. So this creates an incentive when you get to that RMD stage to roll assets into the Roth IRA arena, which usually is a higher fee environment than your employer plan. So we brought forward that we would like that equalized however they want to do it, if they want to add the RMD to the Roth or take it away from the 457. And then additionally, we learned this at the Wyoming retirement system, because we allow people to purchase service in their defined benefit plan and they can use their 457 assets to roll over and purchase that service. We learned that the Roth 457 was not allowed to roll over and purchase. We see no reason for that because we track whether the money that's purchasing the service is before tax or after tax. And so we brought that package of Roth refinements to people on the Hill, and all of them were like, if a vehicle moves, these are things that we can do. And they very much received it as, this would just be very logical, helpful things to do. And they're not political in nature. They're just, now that we've lived with this vehicle for a while, we know what needs to be done to make it work even better. And then, for all my friends out there who manage 457 plans, and I know all of you, the first day of the month rule, which is this archaic rule that applies only to 457 plans, and it says that basically you can change your contribution amount, but it can't take place in the same month that you've elected it. It has to take place in a subsequent month. So it can oftentimes take almost 2 months to get a person's contribution amount changed. So in our world, people often have been working for a different employer that had a 401k that doesn't have this restriction. You can go in the day before payday and say, I want to change my contribution, and they can get it done for you. They come into our office and we say, okay, well, this will take place in 2 months. And they think that we're just being obstinate. And we said, no, we really have to follow this rule. It's actually in the federal statute, and there's no reason for it. So we're very hopeful that this will be a year, because a piece of tax legislation is moving, that we can get some of these refinements that would really help our plans in place. Couple of other things that have been talked about. There's always the issue of consolidation of defined contribution plans. And consolidation is one of those things, it seems like a good idea, and you start thinking about it and you think, well, how's it going to help the participant? And the more you think about it, the more you realize it's really not going to be very helpful to the participants, because they're going to end up with assets in their old plan and in a new plan as well. And so it's one of these things where I think if it really doesn't get down to making things better and easier for the participant, I don't see, I'm not motivated to do it. So I guess from NAGDA's perspective, I think we've come to the viewpoint that consolidation is a lot of disruption for not very much improvement for the participant. And we would really rather focus on refinements to the vehicles that we have and make them work better. People who are in the plans have come to understand their plans and know their plans, and we think that would be the better approach.
So it's not only just education of participants, maybe educating the decision makers up on the Hill about the practical implications of making these changes, and what, and I think that's where you and others come in.
Yeah. One other thing that's floating around, and I know we're going to talk a lot about it at the roundtable, is there's ideas of creating incentives or shifting the incentives to support more of the after-tax savings for retirement as opposed to before tax. And that's interesting to me. I'm eager to learn more about what the proposals might be and how that might work. I really like the idea of people being able to choose their own preferred approach to tax diversification. And so I think we'll be learning more about that now, but I think that is what's
what's
being
coming down
talked
the
about
pipe.
right now.
Well, Polly, Scott, thank you so much for spending some time with us, and we hope that you will come back at some point, and we look forward to seeing how your plan develops, and we look forward to participating in NAGDA, so thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.